Alrighty, well, welcome to Bungalows for Bachelors. This is my friend Alberto. And
Not a bachelor.
Not a bachelor, but that's okay.
But in spirit, yes.
In spirit, yes, that's good stuff. So his house is behind us. He just recently started getting moved in, and I was helping him put this together a little bit ago, and so we're here to check it out. I'll give you a little bit of a tour, and he'll tell us some good stories about it. The first question I have for you off the top of my head is, what was your favorite or easiest trade in this whole thing that went smoothly?
The easiest trade was actually the foundation. So the guy who did the foundation, the lot clearing, was like turnkey.
Okay.
I said, hey, here are the plans, and they didn't have to worry about it.
Awesome.
So it was. I started on a high note.
Okay, I was gonna say, so it started out in the beginning where you were just having up here. And then it was framing this. Oh man. Okay.
Each crew that came was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you suck this much.
Oh no. Well, the HVAC guy was good, right?
Oh yeah, HVAC was there's some guys who did really, really well.
Okay, cool. Well, what would you say was the worst? Is there one that stood out?
Yeah. So the septic was supposed to take 30 days, and it took 4 months.
Okay.
There's it's a big company, so I guess they have a lot of stuff going on.
Okay.
But I think I was treated as like a byproduct, and I had to project manage it all the way. And I think if you're paying somebody 20 grand to install a septic, they should at least give you a schedule with dates, and this is what's going to go on.
Yeah.
Instead, I had to call and say, hey, what's going on, this week? Well, we don't know. Okay. Well, what's the next stuff on the list? Well, we gotta get some, fill in. Okay, when is that going to be done?
Okay, so they just outsourced the project management to you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So, but they still charge me though.
They didn't pay you for it?
They didn't pay me. They charged me as for the project manager, which was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, man. So what was so they're just they didn't want to. They weren't upfront with what their plan was.
Well, I think the problem is, they got a lot of work, so they can be sloppy, right?
Yeah.
If you have so many people wanting your stuff, and they chop off their jobs in verticals, right? You have a guy who just does the tank. You have a guy or a crew who just does, the prep. You have a crew that just does the final, laying the hoses, and then you have another person that does all the connections. So there's never one neck to choke.
Okay.
Right? Whenever you call and say, hey, what's going on? Oh, there's somebody else. And then you call, somebody else. Oh, they don't work today.
Oh, jeez. Would you say that was similar to the framing, and that you had this top guy who was just kind of who knew the people to connect to? So there was the stick framing guys, and then there's the guys who put siding.
Yeah, not so much. So the thing with the framing is you have a guy who basically outsources, right?
Yeah.
And that was my problem with the framing is you outsource it to a crew, but it wasn't his kind of crew. He just knew a guy who could help him out. So he was here at the beginning and at the end, and that was it. But with the septic people, it was just, if I didn't call and I didn't bug people, nothing got done.
Yeah.
And then when I called and bugged them, they got ticked off at me for bugging them.
Sure. Yeah. Why is this guy calling us?
Yeah, it's like, are you insinuating I'm not doing my job? Well, you're not doing your job, and there's an insinuation.
I know I'm not doing my job, but I'm okay. It's okay.
Yeah. But kind of different dynamics, but same kind of result, right? Where you're working with people who are outsourced, and the framing aspect. It's just I was working with people who I didn't have your original relationship with.
Okay.
That's right. With the septic people, it's just we have 10 different crews for 10 different aspects of your job, and God knows, there's never one neck to choke. It was my neck. I was a PM. Right? Okay. So project manager.
So how did that hold you up in terms of where was that piece in terms of the house build? Was that near the end?
I waited till the very end because I wanted to have the driveway built, but then obviously the drain field was always over here on the right, so there needed to be some coordination. So I was thinking around. So I called him, around at the beginning of December, saying, hey, how long is it? What's your lead time to start on a project? 2 to 3 weeks. So that's all right. Put me on the list right now. Right. So I was thinking maybe I can be done by the end of December. Right.
It's oh, here we are in May.
Yeah, May. So then 2 weeks passed by, and then we start getting into the pre-Christmas, time frame, right? So I'm like, all right. Well, obviously they're not working. And so I called early January. I was like, okay, well, it's been 4 weeks. I understand it's Christmas, but I haven't gotten any calls. Oh, okay, well, somebody will reach out to you in 1 or 2 weeks, right? It's death by 2 weeks. So then finally somebody called, or no, nobody called. I think somebody said, hey, we're here to spray your, when they do because they have a rough plan of what the septic should be, right? It's going to be back there, the line's going to come this way, and it's a drain field. And some dude that I never spoke to, had never coordinated with me, didn't know what the peculiarities of this house was drawing the lines, right? He didn't know that I wanted a driveway here, or it was going to be slanted this way, or
he's just drawing septic lines out here in the driveway.
Where stuff was going to go, right? So then I was like, okay, great. So I was like, so I talked to the guy. This is where thankfully I was able to catch him.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he had to come back, and I told him, look, there's going to be a driveway this way, so make the lines this, but not lines. He was able to do the lines. But had I not caught him, right, all those lines would have been wrong. Or at least with respect to the driveway.
Sure.
And then I said, all right, well, give me a call when when you're going to make the hole over there, because I want to make sure that stuff fits and blah blah. Well, some dude just showed up and started digging. Right, my neighbors are the ones who told me, hey, there's like a backhoe.
Oh man, good neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just like that, right? And then they made the hole at the end of January. So they told me 5 to 7 days to deliver the tank. Well, they delivered the tank at the end of February. Right? And then they said, it's 30 days to do all this stuff. Right? But I had to do the driveway first, because else to put the drain field, then the driveway guys are going to totally mess up the drain field lines, right? So the driveway took about a week and a half.
Okay.
But that's how I ended up in May.
Okay, sure.
Stuff like that.
All right, so we're gonna walk in here, the front door. We have a small downstairs entry space. We got access to the garage there, and that will take us upstairs. Great wall. That is a great wall. You got power up there?
Yeah, that's where the alarm base is gonna go.
Oh, fair enough.
That way, some battery breaks into my house, can't turn that thing on.
Okay, so we're on the main floor now, and we're gonna talk a little bit about why there's these interesting looking beams and things going on. So before we had this design, we had an open floor plan from a previous designer, and the joists that were spanning the floor plan were very large, cost a lot of money. So instead, we broke things up, and now the spans are shorter, and we added these posts in that look nice, but they are serving the purpose of saving money. Basically, they're carrying loads down through the house. So have you ever been in a house before where you could see things like that, where things stood out? I mean, does this bother you? Does it seem like
No, actually, to me, the aesthetics, people expose beams, and I thought about exposing those beams, but then I thought, keeping with the modern motif, it's better if we do this two-tone paint.
Yeah.
And to me, it actually adds to the aesthetic of the lines of the house, right?
Yeah.
So I'm no designer, but I know that your eyes follow certain lines. So you don't want to have everything just going one way. You want to have, intersections and all sorts of other things. So when you walk in, the first thing you notice is the height, right? 11-foot ceilings, recessed lights and all that. And then you have these lines intersecting, so it breaks stuff up, it looks more modern, cubist if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it kind of feels like it's boxy.
Yeah.
It's kind of defined.
So it's open, yet you can see this is the living room space. That's the kitchen space.
Yeah.
And that's the other space, and then everything's kind of open yet defined.
Okay.
So I actually like the look.
Sure. Okay. Good stuff.
And people, someone said, oh, you can frame it with cedar wrap so it looks like an actual cedar beam.
Yeah.
But I prefer this look.
Sure. And you can always kind of tell when something's wrapped.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
That's
they didn't use a piece of cedar.
Exactly. That's not a big ass cedar log.
Yeah. I've only been in one house where I saw real timbers, and the cross sections were really massive.
That's cash money.
And I think they were still fake. They weren't load bearing. They were just there to
just for show.
I'm sure it probably cost them an arm and a leg to get in there. But
Yeah.
good stuff. All right, we're back downstairs, going into the garage. We'll look at some of the stuff we got going on in here. When you build it, where do they cut off and say, okay, you get a certificate of occupancy, you can move in, but these things aren't done?
So we're in an unincorporated area, which means they don't offer
COAs or whatever, certificate of
Certificate of occupancy.
so it's a COO, I guess. They don't offer those certificates. So what I had to do was wait for the bank to say, okay, fine, you can move in. But I think if we're in New Braunfels or like definitely San Antonio,
In the city's gonna
inspector comes in
Okay.
and looks at it, and then they give you that certificate to move in.
Okay.
But my gatekeeper was the bank,
Okay.
right? So they expressly told me, you can't move in until you close, right? But then since I did a single closing, I had to a single closing meaning when I got the construction loan, I also got the
Mortgage. Okay.
show. So I had to get their okay, and then they gave me their okay. After I submitted the final draw, that's when they gave me the okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many inspections was the bank after? Because like they got the form inspection.
Every
make sure
time,
your house was
every time I did a draw, they had an inspection.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. So it depended on when I submitted a draw, right?
Okay.
So if I stacked a bunch of draws together, or then it was a single inspection.
Okay.
But largely it was, if it was a big ticket item, money-wise, then I'd submit a draw, right? So the big one, first one was the foundation and land clearing. Next one was the framing. Then after that, it was the sheetrock and the foam and the paint. And then I was allowed 2 draws a month.
Okay.
So I try to do it like at the middle of the month and at the end of the month.
Fair enough. All right. So tell me a little bit about this cool garage door opener back here, because I've not seen this before.
So this is not belt driven. This is I forget the name. It's shaft driven. It has a little shaft inside.
Sure.
So it saves
Direct
you
drive
from
or something?
yeah, direct drive. Yeah.
Okay.
So it saves you from having to have a belt, right?
Yeah.
And it's super quiet too. And it's like Wi-Fi capable.
Okay.
So and it saves you space. It's Wi-Fi capable and it's super quiet.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that overhead is like, that seems to be part of like one of the annoying things when you're aligning a garage door. Place this bracket in this thing right in the right spot in order to get this thing to move in the right place.
yeah, and if you have a car that's pretty tall, you obviously can't fit it, or if you have stuff on top of that.
Oh yeah.
Or
you
if you
have a
wanna-
taller car here, that makes sense.
And you can actually put storage up on the ceiling as well.
Sure. Okay. So where did you first see that thing?
I didn't know they existed. I just started Googling. I needed a
garage
garage
door
door
opener,
opener,
and it recommended-
and I noticed this guy. I was like, oh wow! So I actually got a pretty good deal on it.
Cool.
So that's what I want.
All right.
Yeah, everything around here, I try to either be, it has to be a smart, capable device, or it has to be, it's all electric, so it has to be some sort of, electric device that also conserves energy, like the hybrid water heater over here.
Okay.
Right. So.
Yeah. What did you end up going with the water heater?
So.
You were talking about like heat pump things. And
Yeah. So it has a heat pump.
Okay.
And it's basically a heat exchanger, and it's a Reen at Home Depot. And during the summertime, it just blows out cold air, right?
Yeah.
And in the wintertime, when it gets super, super cold, I think it might have a heat element. I'm not 100% sure, but we're only super cold here, like what, 2-3 weeks out of the year?
Sure.
I'm talking about like -0 or single digits.
Yeah.
On that, it could be 30 degrees outside, and you can still get some heat out of the heat exchanger.
Wow. Okay.
So that guy has a heat pump. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So you don't have air being pumped into here.
No.
Okay. So that's going to help keep this more regulated. This is, I'm assuming, insulated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got living space right here. So okay.
Yeah, actually, when you don't open that door and that guy's been running for a day or two, it's actually nice and cool in there.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, bottom floor. Yeah, makes sense. All right, well, we're going to wrap up here. It's been cool to see the house. Thank you for letting me stop by and show everybody this thing. I'm excited for the next one when the time comes when you want to build the next one.
But I do want to say, all this is due to this guy. So if it wasn't for this dude, this wouldn't have been a possibility. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good doing everything. I'm excited to get to see this thing again. It's so cool.
Yeah, but I can't recommend this dude enough. Like I said, I've dealt with different other designers and quasi architects and whatnot, and it was just a big black people And this, as you can see, is actually a manifestation of my dreams through this guy's abilities. So, cool. Thanks again.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you on the next one. So, out.